Hey everybody, this is Mr. Morel, and I'm going to do a video for you. And we're going to do a video about solving equations with fractions. Now, these are going to be a lot like two-step equations, but some people get confused. But if you watched my last video, and you were using, kind of in the last video I taught you two different ways to handle some problems you might come up with when solving equations. The box of doom method and the fraction anxiety trick. If you watch that video for 2.2, this homework assignment honestly is going to be such a breeze. The reason why I teach those techniques is because I know that these kinds of questions can come up, and I want to make them easier on you. Okay, so let's look at the level 1 question. So this level 1 question, I'm basically going to tell you the steps. You ignore the box of doom, totally ignore fraction anxiety or whatever. If you follow these steps right here, you're going to be able to solve the equations. And you're going to see that we get different answers. The only difference between these two problems here, if you take a look, is that in question 1, only x is being divided by 4. In question 2, x plus 3 is being divided by 4. And it's a small difference, but it totally changes the order that you should do things and the reasons why. So I tell you the order that you should be solving these, and so we're just going to follow these steps. So in question 1, the first thing we should do is subtract by 3. Again, this is not the box of doom happening here. We're not doing the opposite stuff backwards or anything like that. We're just following these steps. So step 1, we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. So we would have x divided by 4 equals 2. And then we're going to multiply both sides by 4. And that will leave us x equals 8. In other words, if we replace the x with an 8, it will make this statement true. Okay? And so there's our answer on that side. Now over here, because of the way that things are written, we have to do the steps in a different order. Over here, we need to start by multiplying by 4 on both sides. So then these 4's would kind of cancel out, and we would have x plus 3 equals 20. And then we would subtract 3 from both sides, and x would equal 17. Okay, so totally different answer. And hopefully the reason why we have to do these in a different answer will become very apparent as we look at the level 2 questions. Alright, so let's scroll up the screen here. Alright, so let's look at questions 3 and 4 together. Normally I do kind of like every other question, but because of the way these are written, I kind of want to do these two questions and then these two questions and whatever. So, okay, I'm going to solve these in two different ways. And again, my ways might be totally different than a different teacher's ways of teaching these. These are just things that work for me and for my students usually. So, I'm going to try to solve them in two different ways just so that you can see or latch on to a way that works best for you. First way is the box of doom, because the box of doom just does not fail. We have one v here, and so we can do the box of doom, and we want to say what's happening to it. Well, the closest thing happening to this v is that it's being divided by 7. And after that, it's being subtracted by 2. Now, I know this is kind of weird, but I want to also do the box of doom for question 4 at the same time. If we look at question 4, the closest thing to the v, it might be a little confusing, is going to be the subtract 2, because it's on the top of the fraction. The first thing that would happen to this v is it would be subtracted by 2 and then divided by 7. So you can kind of see the differences there between these two questions. Now, when I go to solve these, let's start by solving question 3. Remember, we're always going to do the opposite stuff backwards. I'm going to start at the bottom of the list and work my way up. I'm going to start by adding 2 in this example. So then I would have v divided by 7 equals 11. And then that takes care of that step. And then I would multiply both sides by 7. So that I would get v equals 77. And you could go ahead and double check that if you wanted to by plugging 77 in for v. And you probably should while you're doing the questions that I don't do. Now when we go and do the same process on this side, we're going to do the opposite operations backwards. the first step here is to multiply both sides by 7. And when we do that, these 7s are going to cancel. And 9 times 7 is 63. Is it? Yeah, it is. I think something's weird. No, we're doing this right. Sorry. For some reason I was expecting us to get the same answer, but we're not supposed to get the same answer. That's the whole point. I'm crazy. Sorry. Okay, so that took care of this step here. And then our last step is going to be to do the opposite of subtracting 2, which means to add 2. And so finally on this side, our answer is going to be the v equals 65. And again, 65 is the only number that would work in this. Let me go ahead and just show you, kind of checking work. I want to show you that this is true. If I were to put this 77 in for this v over here, we would have 77 minus 2 divided by 7, and in theory that should equal 9. Well, 77 minus 2 is going to be 75 divided by 7 equals 9. And 75 divided by 7 is going to be 10 point something. You could plug it in your calculator. It's not 9. But if we correctly plug 65 in for this v, 65 minus 2 divided by 7 equals 9. Well, 65 minus 2 is 63, and 63 divided by 7 is 9. So that's the correct answer there. Okay, so that was the box of doom method that we used to solve those. Let me go ahead and erase those. And just to help people who might just be nervous about those fractions, or they don't understand what to do, or if you just want to see a different way to solve these, here's how we could do it. For those suffering fraction anxiety, they try to get rid of the fractions as quickly as possible. I could circle this 7 and multiply that by that 2 and by that 9 on this equation. Over here I would circle the 7, we leave this stuff on top of the fraction alone, so we'd only go towards that 9 over there. Okay, so on question 3 we're left with the v, because the top of the fraction just drops down, minus 14, because 2 times 7 is 14, and 7 times 9 is 63. Over on question 4, we're left with the v minus 2 equals 63. Now, on question 3, I'm going to come back and add 14. And 63 plus 14 is 77. So once again, for question 3, we got that the answer was 77. If I add 2 to both sides on question 4, I get 65. So again, just 2 different ways to solve the problem. You could use the box of doom or get rid of that fraction if it's really stressing you out. Let's go ahead and scroll the page up and look. Oh my gosh, why does it do that? Let's scroll the page up and look at questions 7 and 8. So let me go ahead and solve question 7 using the box of doom method. And we have an r, and there's only one r there, so this works. R is being divided by 9 and added by 4. And so when we divide by 9 and then add by 4, we're going to do the opposite operations backwards. Subtract 4 first. So r divided by 9 equals negative 10. And then we're going to divide or multiply by 9 because it's being divided by 9. And we would get that r equals negative 90. And then you can and should check your work. We could have done that getting rid of the fraction, so let's try that just to help people out that like that method more. We have our 9. I'm going to distribute that 9 kind of to these things over here. And we would get r plus 36 equals negative 54. And then we're going to subtract 36 from both sides. And once again, we would get the r equals negative 90. Okay, so just 2 different ways. Either way, we got that r equals negative 90. And let's come over here to question, I think, did I get negative 90 the first time I did that? I should have. Yeah, I think I did. Sorry, my brain. Alright, let's come over here to question 8. First of all, let's use the box of doom. We're solving for r. In this example, because there's a plus 4 on top of the fraction, technically plus 4 is closer to r than the divide by 9. So I'm going to do the opposite stuff backwards. Let me start by multiplying both sides by 9. So we would get r plus 4 equals negative 54. Now that's going to look familiar when I go through and solve using the fraction method, but here we go. So r plus 4 equals negative 54. That took care of that step there. Let's go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides, and r equals negative 58. Okay, let's do that same process, but this time we're going to get rid of the fraction for those of you that don't like the fraction. I'm going to circle that 9, and I'm going to leave the top of the fraction alone, so I only need to multiply it over here. And we would get r plus 4 equals negative 54. Hopefully you are seeing and realizing that that looks exactly like it did after our first step using the box of doom method. And we're going to subtract 54 from both sides, and so r equals negative 58 again. Same exact answer. No big deal there. Alright, let's go on to the back side. I'm going to solve question 11. I'll solve it using both methods so that you can see. We're solving for w. There's only one w there, so we can go ahead and do that. W is being divided by 2 and added by 10. So, opposite steps backwards, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 10 first. So then we have w divided by 2 equals negative 25. Sorry, those beeps that you hear are text messages. Okay, and then that took care of that step. Why are these level 3? These should not be level 3. I think these are just more problems for you, because these are not any more difficult than anything else that we've seen so far. Then our next step is going to be to multiply both sides by 2. And we would get that w equals negative 50. Alright, let's go ahead and try it the other way, just getting rid of the fraction, just to see if it really works that way. I'm going to circle that 2. And I just want to point out, when I'm circling that 2, I'm essentially saying, hey, I want to multiply everything in this equation by 2. It's kind of like we're doing this crazy Santa hat thing. But the reason that I'm saying that is when we do w divided by 2 times 2, well, that would equal 2w divided by 2, which just equals w. It's just a shortcut, and I hope that you understand why that shortcut works. It's just something nice that a student came up with last year that I liked a lot, and a lot of students really liked the way that they kind of visualized that by circling the 2 and kind of Santa hatting from that 2 this way. So again, we're left just with the w because we're multiplying that fraction by 2, and it gets rid of the 2 on the bottom. Plus 20 equals negative 30, because we have to multiply. And then we would subtract both sides by 20, and we would get that w equals negative 50. Same answer that we had before. Alright, let's go ahead and look at question 16. Again, you don't even need these examples because, why did I erase that? I don't know. Box of doom method for question 16, we've got a j. J is being divided by negative 2 and added by 3. Oh my gosh, why don't people leave me alone? We're going to do the opposite steps backwards, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides first. So we have j divided by negative 2 equals negative 7. And then after that we're going to multiply both sides by negative 2, and j would equal, sorry, this is so sloppy, negative 7 times negative 2 is a positive 14. Let me do that the other way just so you can see we get the same answer again. If you don't like this fraction, that negative 2 can distribute like that. Here we have negative 2 times 3 is going to be negative 6 equals positive 8. Okay? And again, for some of you, you're looking at this plus negative and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. But for the last several videos I've talked about, if you are confused by the plus negative 6, we can just say that that's j minus 6. And then we can add a 6 to both sides. And then that goes away, and we're left with j equals 14 once again. Okay? Well, hopefully this video has been helpful for you. I kept it under 20 minutes. Oh, hold on. Let me look at this down here. Yeah, let's talk about question 17, because I've got 5 minutes to go. So question 17 says, a checking account is set up with an initial balance of $4,800, and $400 is taken away from the account every month for rent. And so this is like an account that was set up just for the purposes of paying rent. We're asked to write out an equation whose solution is the number of months, M, it takes for the account to reach 2,000. Okay, so that's kind of confusing, but you can kind of read that and say, okay, well, I know that at the end, no matter what I've got, I need to equal 2,000. We want the amount of money in the account to equal 2,000. So what we need to do now is to write an expression that says how much money is in the account. So let me erase this again, and I just want to focus on that underlined part. How much money is in the account? That's what we want to understand. Well, for starters, we know that there's $4,800 in the account now. And we're going to subtract $400, and it says every month. So to me, when it says every month, that's saying, hey, we need to multiply that by the number of months, M. Because if, for example, let's say that it had been 2 months. Well, if we wanted to figure out how much money was in the account, we would do $4,800 minus 400 2 times, which would be minus 800 altogether. Okay? So once again, to write that expression about how much money is in the account, we would have 4,800 minus $400 every month, and we would want to multiply that by the number of months. And we need that to equal 2,000. Now the question doesn't ask us to do this, but if you wanted to, you could. You could figure out how much money is in the account, or how many months it takes to get to $2,000. Okay? Now, I'm only going to solve this, or I'm going to set it up, because I know there's a point of confusion here. If we were looking at this question here, I would make my box of doom. I'm solving for M, and I want to say what's happening to it. Well, M looks like is being multiplied by 400, and then it kind of looks like we're subtracting 4,800. But the reason why I'm talking about this is that is not what is happening here. If I ever see a subtraction sign in front of a variable like this, I always change it to say plus negative, because it's going to help me understand. And when you get your answer, I think when you go back and think about the answer in terms of the question, you're going to see that it would have been a weird answer the other way. So here, this box of doom says we've got M, and this time instead of multiplying by 400, we're multiplying by negative 400. And then instead of subtracting 4,800, we're adding 4,800. So when we go to solve this, doing opposite steps backwards, the first thing we need to do is to subtract 4,800 from both sides. And you do that, and then you would divide by negative 400. Anyway, that's just a recommendation for you, and then I'm going to let you work on those level 4 questions, because that's, more ways that you need to push yourself. And I hope this video has been helpful for you. I made it under 20 minutes. I'm so cool. Have a great day.